Hello everybody and welcome to another podcast with Hayley and Leanne, Keeping It Real. Today we're going to be speaking about relationships, what works and what doesn't work. And me and Hayley both work with in the realms of transformational work, helping people connect to their true self. Now I'm going to hand you over to Hayley.
Yes, so we've been speaking about this podcast for a few months now. But we're a believer of the podcast will happen at the right time, and it did today. So we want to speak about what works and what doesn't work in relationships. I think that when you're not doing what works, naturally what don't work occurs. This is what my feeling is. And normally what works is natural, but I'm going to go into so we talk about our own experiences. We are not gods. We sort of are.
Sorry, that made me go.
This is our own experiences. There's no right or wrong. This is what works for me, and you say what works for you, etc. So I'm going to start off today with between boundaries and responsibility. I'm going to start off with responsibility because I find this one a big one. So when I first realized I was blaming Steve for like my stuff going missing, or because Steve had a habit of putting things away in a safe place where he couldn't remember where it was. So I would get really stuck in his place of blaming him. And then I had a reality check and I was like, hang on a minute. This is not working. So for me either, it's not working for the relationship. So when I realized, you know what, if you want your stuff to be put away in a safe place, you do it. You put it in a safe place. So I started to be more responsible for my behaviors and especially my happiness, because
he sounds like a right ogre. Sorry. How dare he put, and that's terrible, that's a sin.
I know.
Putting stuff away.
Doing a kind thing and I'm going, where's mine? But yes, so this is where we get stuck in our own reality. This, for me, this was my reality. This is really a big problem. It wasn't, but this is how it felt at the time. So when I realized, you know what, this ain't working for me. So I started to look at responsibility, and what worked for me is taking complete responsibility for my own happiness, not relying on Steve to make me happy, because I've done that in previous relationships, and being like taking ownership for my own words, my actions, rather than blaming. You made me do this, you made me do that, you made me feel this way. It never sit right. So as soon as I started to do this, in turn, it's not, no one's perfect. Steve would naturally blame me. You made me feel this way. But what works was we spoke about it. We spoke about, this is not working. Let's look, you're responsible for your happiness. I'm responsible for mine. That what works. And it's a good Will Smith does a good YouTube video on this, actually.
I've seen it.
So it's about 3 minutes, so if anyone wants to watch that, Will Smith on responsibility is great, and he just explains it so well. Because genuinely we get so lost and we assume, I genuinely assumed that people were there to make me happy. Just thought it was such a unconscious belief, such a truth in my own head. When I realized this, Leanne, it become freeing.
No, it does. It frees your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I'm responsible for my own happiness. Oh. They can make.
Why isn't that like headlines? I never knew that we were responsible for our own happiness. I believe it's a massive misunderstanding.
Yes.
this is why I feel this should be the fundamental things of mind, thought, and consciousness should be taught in schools, because we think that something on the outside of us is making us feel this way, instead of it's the thoughts about that situation that is actually occurring, and then another belief is built because we make up stories and add to those beliefs of stuff that's not real. You know, I always thought that with a partner, you know, oh God, you make me so happy.
Yeah,
It's quite easy to get into that illusion
you can
when you
put,
first, like, you know, I'm not with somebody now, and so, you know, but I've had a lot of experiences, stuff that doesn't work. But in all of it, it's been an inspiring lesson, because I have really seen me and my part in it, because I think we was talking about this earlier, wasn't we? So I'm seeing a lot of, like, with relationships, not only with partners, I'm seeing a lot of blame on partners' behaviour, but we have a part to play in that because we're responsible for ourselves. So, as you say, it's back to that responsibility. So, I'm not making excuses for people's behaviour or my own.
yes,
So I only have control of self. So, you know, in relationships for me that haven't worked, I mean, I've been in a lot of abusive relationships, like verbally abusive. And so there was good stuff in those relationships. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say it was all bad, because it wasn't. But there's stuff that is unacceptable. And I see that now. But at the time, I didn't. And I would just constantly blame their behaviour and not take responsibility myself. And actually, my responsibility in that was, I allowed that behaviour all the time. I normalised that. I normalised someone speaking to me and putting me down. I allowed that. So, so in a way now, I'm really grateful that I've had those lessons, because that totally took me away from true self. Totally took me away, and I felt so disconnected, because I was always going, you know, but you did this and you did that and you said this and you said that, and then I would become equally as abusive. So there I am in a verbal abuse battle, but then I'll come out fighting, because that's what my norm is, because of childhood stuff and whatever. Won't go into all that now. So, but yeah, so but I now can see where I've allowed it, and my behaviour was totally unacceptable, and not making it into, and that taking responsibility is a huge thing for me, Hayley. Now, is I'm looking at my part in it, in friendships, family, and partners. I don't know where that came from. But yeah.
it's so important, isn't it? It's so important.
Yeah.
It's so,
yeah.
It's, you know, right, I'm going to dip into boundaries and back into this, because they sort of connect for me. So what I know,
Dip away, Hayley.
I'm
Dip
going to
away.
dip in and out. So boundaries, I never knew they
Huge.
properly existed until a really good friend of mine helped me with these.
How nice is that friend?
Pardon?
No, I said, oh, how nice is the friend?
Yes, the friend is lovely. She's lovely. Yeah, so I was so afraid to put boundaries in, and because I really thought boundaries were to stop the other person's behaviour.
Bollards.
Like control. But no, this is such an innocence. This is not an intention to be controlling. I genuinely thought, well, I'm putting these boundaries in, but they're not stopping. And then when I realised boundaries are for us, so what's acceptable for me and what's not acceptable for me is my responsibility to share in this relationship. Look, just to let you know, this doesn't work, this works. It's not anything like controlling aspects. It doesn't work, you going out, that's not a boundary. That's not that's control. But you know, the way you're speaking to me, etc., or etc., etc. So what I realized was, when I started to put boundaries down for me with no expectation from them, it started to work. It naturally started to work, because they weren't feeling expectation. They weren't feeling I was telling them off, or, you know, taking away their freedom. It was purely, you know, look, this is not working for me. I'm not going to accept it, and that's it. and I didn't accept something. You know, I didn't. I used integrity, so I did what I said I was going to do, and I stuck to it. I failed many times, but I recommitted, and I did it again. So that's, you know, that's how I learned boundaries. Was I wasn't going to put pressure on myself. That, oh, I've got to put a boundary down today and stick to it. It's not as easy as that. It's, you know, it takes time to be able to have your worth, to be able to say, actually, that's really, you know, this is my boundary. So for me, that really works when I put a boundary down for me, not to change their behavior though. Really, honestly. But it's so, to other people, they might be going, well, that's obvious. It's
Yeah,
really
but it's not when when you don't know.
No,
it's not obvious. Yeah, it's obvious if you know, but you know, and I love the way you bring integrity in it. Yeah, integrity to self. Do you know what I mean? Like integrity, the foundation of everything that works. Absolutely everything, isn't it?
Oh, 100%.
So yeah, and I love what you've just said there, with boundaries, because I now talk and help people with boundaries because I had none. That's how I know about them. By working on myself and going, yeah, the last 4.5 years there's been lots of lessons for me with boundaries, so that's why I can help people, Hayley, with theirs. But yeah, so when you allow whatever it is you're allowing, that's because you have no boundaries.
Yeah, and that's
where it comes back to. So if something doesn't work for you, it doesn't. Yeah, exactly. It's not the controlling boundaries. I don't like it when you breathe in my face, so therefore you're not allowed to breathe.
Move out the fucking room. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's just like, you know, mega controlling. But yeah, so what an example, Leanne. Julius.
No, but it's true, you know.
Yeah, no, I know. I just like to add a little bit of humour because it's a very serious subject. And it's like, you know, the boundaries is a massive one, because, and it's to be able to converse, and true communication. If you're communicating with someone, you know, about something that doesn't work for you, if they're like, I'm not listening to you, that's ridiculous, you know, blah, 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 you'd always take responsibility on how you're communicating. And if that person isn't responding to you in a way, it's like the communication's got to be true. And if they're not willing to see that you have a little bit of uncomfortableness, or actually something really doesn't work for you, then that's not them being very considerate and compassionate or kind. Therefore, you know, that's not really a healthy relationship in my book, because it's, you know, it's just not fair, is it?
Yeah, but they'll soon, if you use integrity as your boundary, they're going to see, well, she's not budging, or he's not budging, because they're using their boundary.
she's still breathing.
Who was it? You know, when you was around the other day.
She's still going out and wearing the clothes that I don't like her wearing.
Yeah, but yeah. So, but when you was around here, Josh said to you, or to me, can you two?
Oh God, yeah.
Stop talking. So, like that. Bless him. He's only 6, but we was like, well, move out the room, Josh, if you're not happy with us talking. So we was to think that your boundary is to stop them talking. Is control. So your boundary.
Why he was because he wanted to just tell us what he was doing with a Minecraft Monopoly board, and this is this is why kids are just absolutely fabulous, because that's such a valuable lesson for him to learn. Your communication was bang on. He was, because we were just having not adult chat as in, like, you know, kids can't be around, but we were just having a general chit chat. And he was on his iPad doing this Minecraft Monopoly thing, but he wanted to tell us all the coordinates and what colour he was doing and everything. And he wanted us to stop talking and just sit there and listen to all his instructions of what he was doing on this iPad. And I was just like, oh, I found it slightly amusing, which probably didn't help. But yeah, but you were brilliant with him. It's like, well, you don't have to sit here and listen to the talking, Josh. You can always go in your room.
Yeah, so So when a partner tells you to stop breathing or don't eat in that way, they can,
Oh yeah.
they can move out of the room, or you can check in if you're eating with your food flying everywhere.
Yeah. Or if you've got a cold, can you stop coughing, please? Do you mind going and, like, you know, being suffering and being ill somewhere else that's not in front of me?
So basically, your boundaries are for you.
Absolutely, 100%.
And let me just put on my phone's ringing. Can you hear it in the background?
I just thought it was the birds outside.
Yeah, it was. Right. So yeah. So what works for me, really works, is completely being responsible for self, putting boundaries in, and for self. And I think then you naturally have their best interest. You naturally start to see that you both want it. Obviously, that's another important one. What makes a relationship work is if you really want that relationship. If you don't want that relationship, it's not going to work. Because I've known plenty of people. I was in one for a couple of years where I didn't even want to be there, and I was like, why am I here? So it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So yeah. So another thing that works is wanting to be in that relationship. Again, it might seem like an obvious one, but people settle because they don't believe that they can have what they truly want.
Oh no, they do. Settling's a massive part. Where it comes codependent. Yeah. Like, it might be a house, or we can't afford to split, even though this relationship is actually damaging to us and ourselves and our children. But they can't, because they don't want to sell the house and then have material status in, we might have to live in a flat or whatever that is. I'm not saying this is I'm just saying hypothetically, or they stay together for the children, even though the children can see that they're miserably in an unhealthy relationship, and then that gives the children, you're teaching children that that's the norm, and then that has an effect on how they see relationships. And it comes back down to love, kindness, compassion, and like fulfillment. Everybody has the right to be fulfilled in whatever they do, and when you're not fulfilled or stuff, if you're not communicating clearly or taking your responsibility and being accountable for your part in it, you're already at a losing game. You just, it's because it comes tit for tat. But there's some really beautiful relationship people that I know that are in really healthy, happy relationships, and they're just really kind to each other and compassionate and have their own interests at heart, but also their partners, and they just, and they just navigate and flow through life with so much grace and ease that it's beautiful. And that's
once
that's what I want.
And you will.
I know I will. Absolutely.
So with the children one's a big one. So people say we stand for the children, but what can happen is, like you just said, the children can see, well, this is acceptable, and they go on to do this. But also, you're sort of using the children as an excuse, and then you can end up resenting. So I once do you know LBC, the radio station? I once wrote in because I was very passionate about this subject. So the subject was, do you stay in a relationship? It was James O'Brien, I think. So if you listen, James, listen to this. So do you stay in a relationship for the kids? Now, the ones that were saying, he was going, yep, you're all non-selfish people. You're amazing, blah, blah, blah. So I wrote in, he went, oh, listen to this, Hayley Panton. She's all about the I. She thinks that you've got to put your happiness first, because happiness brings happy kids, all about the I. So my point was happy mum, happy children. Yeah. So blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So back then this is about 8 years ago, I was like nearly crying. I was like, oh my God, am I selfish? now I look back and I laugh, because it's just interesting how people can really see that you've got a belief that no, you don't split up because when you've got children, because children will be damaged. It's not that it does the damaging, it's the children are very adaptable. It's the aftermath, I believe, that does the damage.
It does, darling, because, like, if you are unhappy in a relationship, it just creates, if I can get my teeth in, it just creates another type of unhappiness, but in your children. I mean, that's not okay.
No.
That's not okay. But if innocently people do that, thinking they're doing the best for their children,
I know.
because they're giving them a standard of material life, or whatever the reason being, and yeah, it's 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 not intentional, is it? It's like,
No,
but but when you're unhappy, you're creating just another kind of unhappy. Like, I didn't see that in in a volatile relationship, that your children are subjected to hearing that if they're in the house or whatever, and what they're seeing. So that's just, it's like a growing moss. It grows over everything, and the kids, animals, everything.
Yeah,
They pick up on that.
So if you're really happy and fulfilled, your children normally do pick up on that. They really
Well,
do.
they see that you're happy, then it's like, yay. Do you know what I mean? They see that you're happy, and then that osmosis works for your kids.
That's it. So and then they're normally going to only choose people that they're going to connect with. They're not going to choose people that don't work. But yeah, no, do you know what? Relationships are wonderful things. They really are. They're wonderful things.
Oh my goodness, look.
This is so much stuff that works. We actually not really spoke about the stuff that don't work. We've dipped into it, but
yeah, but there's loads of stuff that doesn't work and stuff that does work. It's just, love is the answer to everything.
Yes.
And when I truly saw that for myself, it's had to start with self. And I just saw that I didn't love myself at all. So how could I expect anyone to love me? So now I just, my value with myself and my worthiness has gone up so much that I will only attract somebody who can see my worth. Because you project, don't you, what you're feeling, and then that's what you attract and all that stuff. So I just, it's just it's exciting. The thought of actually meeting somebody who values me I'm excited about it, because I know it's going to happen. I just trust myself. So it's just coming back to self every time.
Yeah. So there was a good quote I see, how you love yourself is how you teach others to love you. And that's
yay.
And that's spot on. So yeah, so there's lots of stuff that works in relationships, and normally when you're not doing the stuff that works, I find the stuff that doesn't work dips in. And
of course it does, because you're not actually valuing yourself, therefore you're not you're giving out. If you put up with stuff that doesn't work, it just creates a whole load of bucket of stuff that doesn't work, and stuff that kind of works but not as well as you'd like. So that's how it. So if you're living in stuff that doesn't work, it just does create a whole load of other stuff. And I have a certificate in stuff that doesn't work.
We need to, though, didn't we? We have to go.
I've had to do this so that I've learned what I've learned, and this is why I can help other people in transformation and stuff, because there's not many areas of life of stuff that doesn't work that I haven't experienced. So that's
it's good to see that, though, isn't it, Leanne? It's good to see the stuff that doesn't work, the stuff when you just own. Don't worry about what they're doing, it's not working. It's more because that will, if you're doing what works and you're looking after you, you're naturally going to see if this relationship's right for you anyway. If you put it back to you, you're naturally going to say, well, do you know what, it's going to be a natural thing that you're either going to stay in this relationship or you're going to end up changing things and then value yourself so much. You wouldn't allow yourself to be treated in a certain way if you completely respected and accepted who you were, who you are, heart. But yeah, basically, so a couple of things that I experienced that really didn't work, but I really couldn't see this at the time. was definitely blaming. We know that, we spoke about the other, blaming people. Comparison was a big one.
Oh
Comparing
yeah.
other people's relationship, or comparing them to another man, or comparing them to your ex, or etc etc. You completely lose sight of this person in front of you, because that's what I did when I first got with Steve. I compared, oh no, he's doing the same behavior a little bit of what my ex did, not in the same like oh no, actually we just watching football and being passionate, so when I compared him, but that's because I naturally went there, so you naturally can sort of get really triggered back, can't you? As soon as I grounded myself and reminded myself, do you know what, this is Steve, this is not blah 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 blah, it grounds you and you go, oh yeah, no, yeah, now I know. So comparison definitely doesn't work. Blaming doesn't work. Brushing things under the carpet, avoidance, doesn't work.
Denial doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Pretending, no, we're okay, let's just get that brush and we're okay, let's just put it to bed. Sometimes you can, like, if it's just silly, but sometimes if you're getting repeating the same arguments over and over again, then there's something that's not, you're stuck.
Yeah, fundamentally, or like, let's draw a line in the sand and start afresh.
Yeah.
And just ignore all the stuff that's just happened, and then we create it all again. Just change the content, but context is basically still the same of what doesn't work. Yeah,
and it's just and it's really hard when you've got one person that wants a relationship and one person doesn't. One person is ready to put all this work in, and it's really, this is really this could be quite heartbreaking when you see one person that really wants to put everything in this relationship, is willing to take responsibility, but the other person is not. That is just, in my eyes, it's just not going to work.
That's exhausting.
Yeah, and it happens a lot.
I know. I've heard it before because obviously I've worked in domestic abuse, mental health, and I've heard it from men and women, because obviously it's not gender specific, of like they've done everything they can because they actually believed it was them that needed to change. All the while that the other partner has been going, you need to sort that out. You need to do this about yourself because that's not right. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they really concentrate, and then it doesn't matter what they change, the result of the response from the partner was always the same, but it just looked different.
Yes.
But it basically, it was because then they're just going, it's all you, it's not me. So they're in complete denial that they've got anything to do with the relationship that's not working, and they're permanently pointing the fingers back, something to do with them, and just heavy in judgment on that person. And that person goes off and does all this work on themselves, come back and still getting the same result and the same response in a relationship. It just doesn't work.
No,
it doesn't work. No.
And so I think you'll find naturally, if if you were to equally have a conversation and take care of yourselves first and naturally come back together, I think it's going to that's how it naturally works. It really does, because you if you're feeling great and you're feeling fantastic and happy, you can't be unkind, you can't be this way, you just want to be loving when you're feeling good.
Yeah.
So have you got any?
Well, that's right. Look, it's a 50-50 for me. A relationship is one whole, yeah. So you've got like 100%. We're all perfectly imperfect. I say it a lot, is because it's true.
Yes.
And it's loving those imperfections as well as the perfections. No human being is perfect, but it's how you work together. It's how you evolve together. So it's 50% your responsibility, is your stuff. 50% is their stuff. So you go off and do whatever it is you've got to do to make yourself happy. The other person goes off and does exactly the same. And then you'll be able to come back together and talk about what you've done. And then you're in that healthy space for it to work, because you're not relying on each other to create that happiness, are you?
No.
And there's, I was speaking to a lady, a Jewish lady, and it was so beautiful what she said. So they've got this word called bircher, and it's an egg. When you crack an egg and it's in two halves, there's no ever halves the same. So you can't put that egg half with another egg half because of the way it's cracked. So when you meet that person, that other person, and that egg, that's it, Bircher. There's like one egg. It's so beautiful the way she described it, a lot better than I did.
I've just got the chills when you described that. So
I just think that's what I want. You know, that's what I truly want. So it's when you fit. Bircher, beautiful analogy on how a partnership should be.
Yes.
Not should.
Not should. How
yeah, use some negative language about Bircher. No, it's just how it works.
Yeah.
Bircher, the two egg halves. Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And I was going to say one more thing on this.
Go on then.
What was you saying? Oh,
a lot.
So I'm happy to leave it on this part here. So what I've noticed is it's completely gone, and it was just
that's what you've noticed.
What I noticed was nothing. You haven't got to do nothing. No,
it happens. It'll come back.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. So if you want to go into a relationship and you want all the lovely things that come with a relationship, then you've got a responsibility to put your part in, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So this is what my point was. When you realize, well, do you know what? I want this. If I just sit back and put my feet up and hope and pray that he'll give me everything I need without me doing anything, it's we've got the law of balance. Okay, so the law of balance, someone recently helped me with this, actually, a very intelligent man.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yes. So the law of balance. So if there's no balance in a relationship, and I'm not talking about, oh, I did this for you last week, blah 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 blah, I'm talking about a natural balance. It's going to be out of alignment, isn't it? So there is an actual, like, the universal law of balance. So if you're naturally, you both are, I'm in a relationship, I want this, so I'm going to put some work in, like you would if you want to earn money. You're going to do something, a service to have money, aren't you? So that's my point. So don't wait for them to do everything. You do it as well.
Well, it's giving. Sorry. What I got from what you just said, which I totally 100% agree with, by the way, is it's giving with no expectation. And hopefully that person has the same mindset, the same way about them, that they do the same. So it's all just lovely.
Yes. It's lovely. So
yeah,
you can be in a relationship that works. Just got to put the work in.
I was going to say something, I forgot. Are
you mocking me, Leanne?
Oh, anyway, come on, let's do the funny, silly, stupid snippet of anything that you've experienced in this last week, or 2 weeks actually, since last.
So, what is I'm going to say my one.
Waiting.
Okay, so the funny thing I've heard this week is me and Leanne were going on a night out, and Steve, my partner Steve, said to Josh was jumping around like a lunatic because he was like just hyper. Steve said to Josh, okay, Josh, you can chill or not chill. That's your choice. So Josh stopped and thought, well, I'm not going to chill, and carried on being like a lunatic. Your choice. And he realised after he said it, wait, you can chill or not chill.
I ran to the top of the stairs just going, hey, and Hayden's going, I know. I went, he's just giving him a choice. Chill or not chill. I was like, he's now going to go bonkers. It's so funny.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing that I've seen and heard this week.
Well, I love the way he caught himself as he said it, though. afterwards he's like, I can't believe I just said that. That was the classic. The funniest, this was about 2 weeks ago actually. I had the joys of going to the local job centre. I had to do something like self-employment forms and blah blah blah. Boring. So I had to meet. For people that don't know, I'm severely sighted, so I had to meet the disability employment advisor at the job centre. She wasn't there on time, so I just walked in. That wasn't the funny bit, but yeah. So I go up the stairs, because going upstairs is easier than me going downstairs because of what I can see and what I can't see. So on the way out, I said, could you show me where the slope is for people with disability or not so able-bodied people, whatever. So she showed me to the slope. So I was walking down the slope, and I didn't see an overhanging branch with loads of leaves, and it smacked me in the face. Now, it made me jump. I tell you, it doesn't sound funny, but you've got the irony. Come on, it is funny.
It's a disabled thing to
help. So it's a disabled walkway for people that have disability, and there's an overgrown tree, and an able-bodied, fully sighted disability employment advisor has just shown me the way and said, bye, off you go.
That way, and then you get smacked in a tree. Yeah.
In shock, and I was just like standing there. Then I laughed because I was like, the irony. And then these two lovely Spanish people was go, oh, are you okay? That's a really lousy Spanish accent, but asking me if I was okay. And I was like, sí, yeah. And then I was just like, and I couldn't stop laughing, which made them laugh, and everyone was having a good old laugh. But I was just like, I did actually email them though and let them know. But yeah, that's what I thought. That was just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
Can you imagine if somebody genuinely, like, you know, not genuinely because you were disabled, but in a wheelchair and they get knocked up? Yeah, no, it's not okay. No.
Yeah, I could have so many joke scenarios. But so that just like, and it's the government building, funnily enough, and what they're not keeping things how they should. Shock, horror. So that I thought that was quite funny.
And it was. So Leanne,
right, so Hayley,
are we finished with this week's podcast, or this 6 month week podcast?
Yes, anyway, yes, I think we're finished, darling, so we'll wrap it up. So just wanted to thank everybody that's followed. Please like, share, subscribe. We're going to be doing these more frequent now because me and Hayley are venturing into working together, so we'll be doing more of these, which is very exciting. So if you could share and subscribe, that would be fantastic, and thanks for those that have waited this long to hear that.
So I'm very grateful for all the people that like and share and support us, and if anyone can relate to this podcast and would like to come on to share their stories, we would love that too. Yes, because it's nice for people to actually hear other people's experiences. So if anyone would like to come on our podcast, you are more than welcome. And till the next time. Well, thank you all for listening and watching, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, everyone. Bye.